good. But now he's got this massive gash, and he's uglier for it. So we have to wear a patch. So stuff like that happened. The frontier life, is just stupid honor, kind of thing. So going back though, real quick, that was a snap cut. That's extremely important during sparring. The other one is called the back cut. Now the back cut is my favorite move. So what you can do is, just to show you a quick back cut, all I'm doing is I'm just using the back edge of my knife, right? So I'm basically just taking it here. Instead of making a normal number 1, I'm just turning downward, just turning. It just looks like that. I'm back cutting. So this could be a complete back cut downward. Now, the reason why this is so devastating is because normally I would be hitting about with the true edge, right? And that takes up about 4 inches. So that would basically, the surface area would be, here. With the back cut is all I'm putting all of my force into that tip. So you can imagine how much more dangerous that is.
Yeah, I see.
So basically, if I come down here, I could swipe the face. People used to back cut and take an eye out. I could back cut across the throat, take you out here. I could back cut here and basically do a downward stab and take you in the heart. I could do a back cut here and take your temple and basically kill you in one blow. I could do 3 fatal attacks really quick. The thing about a back cut is it's super quick, right? I'm sitting here, I could go wham and snipe you. Maybe you might give me like an attack here, right? Boom, I could just take your hand real easy. I could just do a simple and just take you out right there. And then basically all it is just, it almost looks like an Abanico. You ever seen like Abanico?
Yes, yes.
It is not an Abanico. Abanico is just fanning, right? I'm not fanning. I'm basically back cutting. I'm leading with this back clip down. So it'll look like here. I'm stabbing inward and taking the face. Now, note that a lot of people think a back cut is, all I'm doing is making this wide motion with the back part of my knife. It's not it. Because if I was doing that, I'm basically compromising my grip and I'm compromising my wrist. So if I did that on Bob and I went across like this, I just lose the knife.
Yeah.
See? So in essence, for this to work, you have to be able to make that cut or that bite, and then you have to pull back. You have to pull back. I have to come in here, get my hit, and then pull it back. Think of a cat. I always think of, I tell my students, a cat grabs some of its claws, and basically just reaches out, and then what it does is it pulls and rips right back. It's like an eagle. You know how they grab stuff, and then they pull and they rip? That's what you're doing. You're back cutting, and then you're cutting backwards. So you're making these motions like so. Now you could do that diagonal.
Yeah.
I could do horizontal.
Yeah.
I could go upward.
Mm-hmm.
I could do reversal. I could do this across the other side of the head, and I could come back around. So you could do this beautiful multi-angled type action. And basically it confuses everybody.
And Thayne, could you, for those of our viewers who have not practiced Filipino martial arts, explain what Abanico is? Because I'm sure many of them, some of them who have not done that don't know that. Could you just very short explain what this concept is, please?
Like here, like staff, right? Here, a stick. So basically an Abanico is like fanning, so fan, right? So basically if I had a stick and I'm here doing normal attacks, basically a fan would be like I would come here and then I would just kind of hit with the back part and then I could come back around. So it's kind of doing this fanning action. See that? All I'm doing is just turning my wrist and letting this hit. So if I hit Bob, I'd be hitting him here across his temple. And I'd come back and hit him here. See, I'm just kind of doing this action. See what I mean? So that works really well against someone's hand. I could do this here, and then come back, and then maybe finish him off with a normal blow. So it's just a fan. That's what it is.
Thank you very much.
So, but again, with a Bowie knife, you're not particularly doing that.
Yeah.
The other reason why a back cut is so great is because it's deceptive. A lot of big knife fighting in Bowie knife is deceptiveness. You can't just come in and trade number ones and twos and threes. You have to be very methodical. You have to be insidious. You have to find openings. You got to try to create openings.
Of course,
you have to be very tactical with the Bowie knife. My friend James Keating said that some of the duels would last hours because the guys would sit there with their knives and they can't find an opening, right? They're trying to probe, they're trying to get him to do something. They would maybe clang the weapons a bit, and they would back off. Some fights would last 15 hours to up to hours. They would just sit there back and forth trying to find an opening because
it's not like what people practice today with all this safety equipment. That's the difference, because they can take risks, right?
Right, they can take risks and come in and try stuff. Imagine, right? You and I are basically just in our shirt, right? We're not in armor. We may have some leather guards. And then all of a sudden you pull out this real 17, 20 inches of steel, and it's real, it's alive, and he wants to kill you. You're not going to go rushing in. You're not going to move in. You're going to be like, whoa. You know what I mean? You're going to be kind of keeping yourself behind the knife and try to find some sniping kind of thing.
Of course.
I mean, that's just human nature, right? No one's going to go, oh, I'm going to rush in on this guy's 17 inches of sharp steel. Nobody does that. So yeah, I mean, a lot of times the fights would end. They would just go, you know what? Screw you. And they would just go home. This is a very cool weapon. It's basically, it's dangerous as hell. I mean, they always say if you pull a Bowie knife, it's for real. I mean, it's lethal. Someone's going to go home probably like 90% of the time dead. I mean, it's a very dangerous weapon. And if the person was kind enough to let you live with a cut here and just let you go, count your stars, count your lucky stars.
One important question. So I didn't understand you correctly. You hold a Bowie knife in not in reverse grip. It's always in forward grip. Am I correct?
Yes.
Never
you
in
do not
reverse.
hold a Bowie knife like so, because for one, you're compromising range.
Yes.
Okay, and you need range with a Bowie knife. This is basically a short sword. It's a big giant knife. So why would you not want to use range, right?
Yes. Yes.
So if I can't use range here, if I can't make these great thrusts, and I switch it to this, that means I have to step in a little bit more in order to do this.
Yes.
But all he has to do is basically step back and basically use some of his fencing skill and basically stab me in the heart. I can't make these actions quick enough, and I have to step in more. I have to come in more range in order to do what I need to do. But no, there really is no reverse grip with Bowie knife training. So, but again, it comes from a lot of fencing. Fencing doesn't use reverse grip. Fencing uses forward grip.
Yes.
Cavaciones and mandritos and reversos and such.
Yes. And did they use two Bowie knives, one in the left, one in the right?
Yes. So what they do was, there is a system of style that I do teach. It's a Bowie knife and then an Arkansas toothpick. So this is still kind of a Bowie knife, but an Arkansas toothpick was just a dagger, right? It's just a two straight blade that comes to a point. So it was basically, the Arkansas toothpick was just a big knife, a big giant dagger with two blades. And they would just use it in the Civil War and stuff. But the reason why the Arkansas toothpick got its name was because it came to such an acute point that they would literally use it as a toothpick. So they have this giant knife. Yeah, seriously. They would just have this giant knife and they're just sitting there picking at their teeth with it. So they just
talking about dental health, right?
They would just call it the Arkansas
making
toothpick.
all cracks there, right?
Yeah, they would sit there and just kind of mess with their teeth with it. Hey, boss, what's going on? So that's where the name came from. So yes, they were telling them to do that.
Yeah.
But yes, what they do is, there is a style where you use the Bowie knife and the Arkansas toothpick. Now what happened is, of course, one would be the Bowie knife for defense, and then you would also thrust with the Arkansas toothpick. Or you can actually pick it up here and then basically do your back cut or your cuts with the Bowie. So yeah, there is a system that basically uses both. They would just kind of use both at the same time. basically some of the techniques that I do with it would be kind of like almost like hubud, where like I would parry with the Arkansas and pick this up and then thrust here, or like I would come here, pick this up here, slash, and then maybe finish off with a thrust. So one would always pretty much defend, and then the other would pick it up, possibly take over for a cover, and then the other would thrust, depending, and then you would practice that way. So yeah, seriously, it wasn't common. You had to really know how to use this one and bring this one and the other one into play. But very much so, yes, sir, you can do both. This also can be replaced with a tomahawk. So you put the Bowie knife here, and then you would have, this is a cold steel tomahawk trainer. So basically you would just keep this here. So this would do the parrying, this would do your attacks. Or I might pick it up here, hook the weapon here, and then come in for the thrust or cut the Bowie. So yeah, there is, I teach classes on tomahawk and Bowie same time. I do some with the Arkansas toothpick as well. So it's just the Arkansas was just a big dagger, pretty much.
Oh, okay. In your classes, so you teach the understand you correctly, you teach Bowie knife, then 2 Bowies at the same time, then combined with tomahawk. And do you also, I know with such big weapons, huge weapons, so dangerous, but do you also teach like throws when you have these things?
Throwing is, yes, you can throw a Bowie knife. You don't throw it very far, right? So you can't just pick it up like this and then chuck it like 30 feet. You can't do that. You can, but like the way that would work would be with the Bowie knife, because it's such a big weapon. You had to, most of the time they would take it like this and they would throw it like underhand, like this, under. So what they would do is, and they would only do it about maybe 5 to 10 feet at most. Because as soon as I get this, and if the weight takes over, it's going to start to, it's not going to work. So you can only throw it about maybe 8 feet. So like the guy was here, you must just throw it right into him, and hopefully it hit him. You never take it like and turn it like this and do this. It's not going to work. No, you don't take it like so and then throw it, like you normally would, like a smaller throwing knife. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way. The best way is to basically underhand it and just let it kind of come out of the hand, like so. So you can do like I was taught basically you can kind of do this, but you're talking like only 3 to 4 feet. Like if the guy was like right, Bob's right here, and if I was here, I might just do this, just about this range, so it just goes like that fast. That far. I wouldn't throw it like this. No. Pretty much any farther. Yes. Just boom, right there. Yes. But this one goes a little farther. I had to throw it into it.
Yes. And do you also combine these teachings with grappling elements?
I personally do not, because I do so. Okay, well, I do some grappling. Like I haven't even gotten into the offhand stuff yet. Like with the Bowie knife, if you get like a parry, you would kind of use the offhand to kind of push the weapon hand away and stab. You can do a thing where sometimes, like in old manuals and some pictures, like with a Native American, basically a guy would thrust, he would grab his hand, and then I would grab their other hand, and we're kind of grappling here. There is some of that where you could cut across, and then you would have to do that type of grappling, but it usually doesn't go any more than that. Like you don't grab them like so, and you're wrestling on the ground. You don't do that. You just one hit, you're pretty much done. Yeah. So, but yeah, you can kind of grab the hand, and then something here. So there is techniques that you can do to get away from that. But for the most part, this is a medium to long range weapon, or short to medium. It's not long enough to be a real long range weapon. You want to fight. I want to be able to stay out in this range and basically parry, push away, slap, counter, and basically finish my person off like a sword duel, sort of. So you want to be able to stay at a certain range with a Bowie knife. The closer you get, the more lethal it becomes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I am. What happened to Bowie? Did he die a peaceful life, or was he killed in a duel or something?
He was killed. You've heard of the Alamo, the Texas
Yeah,
Alamo?
of course.
Bowie, let's finish that off with that. James Bowie basically made his way west to Texas. He basically married a Mexican woman and became a Mexican citizen. But at that time, he was working, had a regiment of his own troops in Texas, and they did some fighting with some of the Mexican army. And he basically ended up at the Alamo. With
David, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please, go ahead.
Oh, he basically ended up with Davy Crockett,
yeah, exactly.
Another American folklore hero, and basically he made it to the Alamo. What happened to James was he got deathly sick, and I think he had tuberculosis. He got tuberculosis, and he was bedridden. He was bedridden during the attack with the Mexican army, and he was so sick that he barely was able to get out of bed. And what happened was that when the Mexican army came, he basically had two guns, or he pulled a gun, and the soldiers came in and he started firing at them, and then he pulled his knife on them. And they say that he actually took many, many soldiers out while he was deathly sick.
I hope I can find it and show it, but I don't know if I have it here. But okay, if I have it here now in Germany, but I will show it to you one day. And when I was 11 years old, I had a present, right? And my father bought it for me, I think. There was like, two toy soldiers made of, those nice plastic soldiers, right?
Yeah.
And there was this American frontier man, and they were both sitting like in a Native American boat, but they were American, Caucasian Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were just paddling, and then they had guns, they had everything, and they had big knives, right? And I asked my dad, who are these guys? And then he told me, the guy sitting in front is David Crockett, and the other one is Bowie, James Bowie.
Jim Bowie and David Crockett.
I have to find it for you. I don't know where it is, but I will show it to you. It's so beautiful. And then I asked him, who are these guys? And then he bought me some like children books about them, early frontier America. So that age, I already read about these guys. So I thought maybe I need to find that.
I would love to see that. You have to show me that.
Yeah, I can't find it, but I will, and then, so this is a very nice memory. And they had also, I think both of them are wearing like fur hat.
Yeah, like the coon skin cap and stuff.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's it, yeah.
I would love to see, you got to show me that next time we talk.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So then he was killed there in this battle. Okay.
Yeah, he basically was really sick. He got really ill. And basically bedridden, and then the attack comes, and then he still fought. I mean, he was dying, and basically he couldn't, and he still took out. He took his gun, took it when they came through the door. There's not a lot of actual real accounts of what actually happened in the Alamo. I mean, they just got overrun, right, by the Mexican army. But basically, they say like he basically did kill many, many soldiers. Even when he was on his deathbed, he was barely hanging off the bed, and he was basically taking people out. And after, I guess, there is talk of, they did find his knife when they found his dead body. They kind of laid their bodies out. They saw Jim Bowie, and one of the ladies, or one of the Mexican, or one of the women there, basically who was kind of cleaning up and stuff, found one of his knives, and basically, or they think that was his knife. But basically, they found him with many other soldiers. And it's funny because there's a guy, one of the men said that there's a saying, he goes, if James was not sick during the Alamo, he said Santa Anna would still be trying to get over the walls.
That's very beautiful.
Because he was such a badass that basically if he wasn't sick, he would have just slaughtered everybody in his path, pretty much. But it's a cool story, but yeah, unfortunately he was killed at the Alamo, and I mean, it was a great battle. He died in battle. So
Do we
how
know
great is
where
that?
they buried him? Do we know where they buried him? No.
I think that they did kind of a. I'm not entirely certain of that, to be honest with you. I think I don't know what the Mexican army did. I don't know if they put them in individual graves. That's something I need to still look into, but I never really even thought about looking that up. But I will now. But yeah, but they did lay out the body. So basically, when the woman saw his body, they found his knife. So they clearly didn't desecrate them. So but it's still a cool story. Still very cool.
Yeah.
At least he died in battle. That's always good.
That's right. That's right. I also see you have two knives hanging. Are they Bowies as well?
Yes, they are. They are just trainers, but I'll show you one. So right here, this here was made for me by a friend of mine named Benaya, and it's taken the I'm sorry, tape there. So basically, this is similar. I said, can you please make me the same design as my Laredo knife? So this knife here, this live version, it's basically almost the exact same. It's pretty much the same dimensions, right?
Yeah.
So I told him to make me that, but I told him I wanted a cross guard. I wanted the curved cross on it. So basically with this, and then it also still has the same kind of coffin handle. So I asked for one here with a curved up cross, just so I could be able to basically practice with it and still do locks with it. And it locks beautifully. I could just turn here and just turn my wrist, and I could either do like a disarm, and it works perfect. And I could do that with both ends too. I could come here, and then basically if I had to, I could shove this in and then ride it into somebody. So yeah, it's just a practice one I just keep. I'm actually having him make me two live versions of this. So I'll have to show you that when it's done.
Yeah.
But works really well. I love it.
It's made of steel?
No. This is made out of aluminum right now.
Oh, that's a trainer. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So it's a trainer. So I'm actually having some real steel ones made. Some actual ones made from probably CRV steel. I think I'm saying that right. That really hard steel.
Yes, it is. It is. And the other one, which is made of steel, this one almost has the same blade shape, right?
What's that? Sorry.
You have another Bowie knife, you have three Bowie knives which have live blades, correct?
Yes, yeah. I brought those down. Yeah, I have one or two others, but they're kind of put away. But I like these ones because they're all a little bit different. I wanted to show a little bit variety of the different shapes and such. So.
Have you ever done any cutting with them with your Bowie knives?
Yeah. I've actually done tatami cutting with some of these. Like I've done tatami cutting with the nachas here, yes. Which worked very well. I mean, it literally cut just like like you do with katana, or longsword, just the tatami mats. I literally was cutting, taking it right off, coming right off. It worked like a charm. And granted, though, I mean, they're not as long as swords, right? So I can't. Sometimes I either cut the tatami all the way through, or mostly I would pez it. So basically I would get like almost 90% through and the thing would kind of come down. It's just what happens with a big knife, I actually tested this with a back cut. I took a tatami and I actually did a straight back cut. So I put my hips into it and I just cut with the back edge and I literally took it off, which was very hard to do. And I've only done that once. I haven't been able to do it since. I could cut most of the way through it, but you have to line that up perfectly with the clip edge to really hit all of it.
Of course. But it doesn't have the mass of a sword to go through. Of course. Right. Big difference.
So I have to rely a lot on hips. I have to turn my hips more into it. But oh yeah, I've done a lot of cutting with it. I cut water bottles with it. I cut watermelons. I cut apples, I'll throw an apple up, cut through it. I'll cut like bottles of water, jugs. It's fun, it's a really good time. I actually sometimes practice with live meat. So what we do is we get like a thing of pork, right? I get a big thing of like meat and I'll get like a dowel rod and I'll place the pork around it. And then I'll put like some like twine to keep the meat on there. and I'll actually practice cutting through flesh to practice that motion. So I'll practice back cuts with it to see how deep it goes into the meat. So it kind of simulates real life, or, you know, real limbs and actual body. So I don't do that very often, but
yeah. Can I ask you another question? Do we have any books on Bowies, historical Bowies or whatever in that direction?
Yeah, some of the best ones that I have and I've always thought were good were Colonel Dwight McLemore, who died just this year, rest his soul. Basically, he has 2 really good Bowie knife books, just look up Colonel Dwight McLemore and put in Bowie knife book, and he has 2 books that he actually hand drawn all the art, and it talks about the history that he's learned and basically some of the techniques. And I use a lot of those in my classes. Those are really good books. There's an old book on Bowie knives by William Thorpe. Basically, he really wasn't a Bowie knife fighter, but he was like a historian. He just kind of did a story about Bowie knives. There's like Bill Bagwell, who was another gentleman who died recently. He made the Hell's Bells. He actually has a book on Bowie knives, which is really good. So there is some sources out there, but again, it's basically people doing a lot of research and kind of putting this together, because again, you know, there's really no treatises and there's really no official books on Bowie knife. You know, it's always a mismatch of saber stuff and rapier and other arts and other bladed arts. So, if you also want to know, like, there's another gentleman who I learned a lot from named James Keating, and he doesn't have any books, but he's done videos. He's got the Crusada video, which is great. He's got a back cut video, a Bowie back cut video. You can look him up on his website, jameskeating.com, and he actually sells those videos, and then he also sells he actually sells these trainers on his site. So you can get these very ones with his type
name
of design.
Rings a bell. James,
what's that?
I think I met him somewhere, or I heard about him.
James Keating used to be really popular in his martial art back in the 90s. So most of his videos are from the 90s, but they still are applicable today. So yeah, he's been around for like 30 plus years.
Yeah, I heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Most people who do any bladed arts or knife arts or Kenpo or Eskrima, Kali, he's a Kali guy, have heard of James Keating. Yeah. He lives over in the western part of the United States. He's an old man now. I think he's like 80 something, but he still teaches and still kicks ass. You know, he's good.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you very much. At the end of our interview, I mean, we are going to invite you definitely back so you can share, if you wish, your techniques more with us. And we are going, I mean, more about Bowie knife techniques. We are going to invite you, and definitely I would like, if you wish, to have you back also on Southeast Asian arts and also Kali. And so this is also some wonderful things, you know, you could share your experience with us.
I can tell you what I know.
Thank you very much. And Thayne, and would you like to say anything else to us, to our viewers at the end?
I don't have much else. I just thank you for this opportunity, and thank you so much for this exposure and just getting this art out. I love doing this and I love teaching it, and you know, if you're ever in the area, look me up. I'm always open for training, and you know, I'm always willing to do something. So
I loved your techniques. Thank you very much for sharing them. Thank you very much. Have a nice day then.
All right. Take care, Richard.
Bye-bye.